to start the day, and it just quickly occurred to me, there seems to be a correlation. Of course, there are exceptions to this situation, but there seems to be a correlation between, and apologies if Periscope isn't transmitting this properly. I'm doing my best with it. I logged out and logged back in, hoping the reception would be better. So I'm hoping it would be better and you can hear me a bit clearer. But there seems to be a correlation between our clients or people who I'm coming across who have suffered hair loss. And there's always exceptions to this rule, but there seems to be a correlation between density and muchness of hair and hair loss. And I'm talking about significant traumatic hair loss, which worries me. A lot of clients who have got significant hair loss, i.e. can't go out with their hair, are explaining that they used to have quite a lot of hair, like ridiculous hair. Their hairline is full. When you part, all the follicles you could see were working, and now they have significant patches in their hair. And it occurs to me that a lot of the time, people choose people to work on their hair who probably don't qualify, but can do the job and say yes to any job or say yes to doing the job. And until that person gets onto that hair, and because they don't know their value, they've given you a rate that really doesn't reflect the muchness and the grandness and the importance of the job. They've given you a rate. You're like, wow, that's quite cheap. You sit in the chair and the person starts doing your hair, and halfway in, the person is struggling to finish the hair off. And a lot of the time when that happens, when somebody has a lot of hair, it seems that the edges suffer and here suffers, the back middle suffers, and the crown. But it seems that this is one of the last places. The back sometimes is one of the last, as I said, there's exceptions to the rule, but that seems to be one of the last places where the hair goes. The reason is because when you start hair traditionally, you start it from the back and you go up. As you go up, you begin to realize, wow, this person has a lot of hair. So the hand changes to actually finish the job, because now they're thinking of finishing the job. They don't think of the health of the hair, because if you think of the health of the hair, you will take your time and do it properly. And what's happening is people are rushing through, trying to complete the task. And unfortunately, it is leading to years of follicle weakening of the follicles. And then it leads to long-term, it leads to hair loss. So this is just a warning to people who have a lot of hair, especially if you've got a daughter who has a lot of hair and much hair. Teaching them value as much as I teach my children about their bodies and their bodies being special and a temple, and they need to kind of choose like who goes near their bodies and things like that. You have to teach your children who have this African hair that you have to be selective, because when you decide on somebody's service as a result of the price, because it's a cheap deal, it can show up on your hair. You've paid that money, you've given that money, but long term, your hair suffers the consequence of choosing somebody who doesn't value their service, gives you a cheap deal, but now has to rush and go through your hair quickly to finish the job to get to the next client. You have to be aware of that. There is a direct connection between people who seem to have a lot of hair, like hair that looks impossible to kind of grow, much hair. And now in their 30s and in their 40s, they have significant hair loss, so much they can't walk out of their house with their hair down. So they come to us to try and help them. And I can see it when I'm in their hair and they're asking how long, what time do you think we're going to finish? You can see that they're impatient, sitting down. And then if I wasn't an expert in hair loss, I would try and quicken the job and like just try and finish the job quickly so they could go. But I have to educate them and stop and say, listen, the reason why it's taking long is because your strands are weak, your follicles are weak. That's a recovering area. We have to take our time and do it properly. And then that person can kind of relax into it and know that, okay, it's going to take longer, but it's done for the right reasons. And it's really important. I'm going to probably do a YouTube on it, but I thought at least let this trigger because if I don't do this post, I know I'll forget because I'm about to start the day. And as you can see, I'm really tired. But I thought I'd share that. So I noticed that there are people out there who really want sister locks. And one of the things they're doing is putting their hair out and they're going, like in a group, they're asking, how much do you think this will cost? Praying that they get a deal. Mate, don't try and get a deal for your African hair, because our African hair is like complex. It's complicated. Choose an expert and go for the value of that expert. Begin to see people who deal with this African hair as important as like trichologists. Rather than running to the trichologist after now your hair is going, you need to prevent. We're preventing you running to that trichologist. So you need to value the natural hair stylist. You need to value the natural hair, the African hair expert, because they are trying to give you a service. And to give you that right service, that's time, mate. Because you can't really rush the job and go, right, I'm so happy it was done in 4 hours. So people are putting their hair out and they're asking people to recommend. And you can see that they're asking them to recommend in terms of the money as well. But no, value of service. If you have a lot of hair and your pockets don't match it, I would suggest you cut your hair down and actually use the service of that person rather than wanting your whole length of your hair to be styled in a certain way and want all that for it. It's better to lose the length and keep the density long term, because the length will always come, than lose the density and have the length. Does that make sense? It is to lose the length at certain points and have the density, long-term density, than to lose the density long term and have the length. Choose density every time, because long term, especially if you lock and you lock it right, you get the fullness. Don't worry about the length will come. So it's just that, to remind people, especially if you've got daughters who have immense hair, you have to train them and teach them about value of service, and not just to go because somebody 8 hours, you know. It's really important. So I'll try and do a YouTube, but I thought I'd quickly do this post before I forget. Circulate it, share, and let's educate ourselves, because our African hair is of value and it's worth looking after our African hair, because we're worthy. Why not? It's our hair and it's special. And a lot of people who don't have this texture. So be grateful for it. It's time consuming, but it's worth it. Spend time on it. So yeah, that's a quick post. The M of the MNH signing out of Periscope. I hope this transmission worked. Apologies if it didn't, but at least I can watch this post and remind myself so I can do another post about this, because this literally popped into my head. The correlation between money, hair, time, and how people are losing their hair because they're going for a cheap deal, or they're going for quicker, or they're going for somebody who hasn't got that much experience. But because the money is a great deal, you're going for short-term gain. Always go for long-term gain. Long-term gain is density. Signing out of Periscope, the M. Have a good day. Bye.